Hi, how you doing, and welcome back to the video on the channel. What we have for you today is our Game Week 5 preview of FPL. We're going to take a look at how my team did from Game Week 4 and then look at different captaincy options and my own personal transfer thoughts moving forward for Game Week 5. Hopefully it help you out with your team selections as well. And if you are new to the channel, please do subscribe, like the video. The support has been awesome so far this season, and we are a small channel trying to grow, so if you can help with that, it is genuinely really appreciated and it does make a difference. So, hopefully we can keep it going as the season gets on. Let's take a look at my team. So the team from Game Week 4 was really good, and we started at the start of the game week at a rank of I think about 24-25k overall, which was obviously fantastic to start the season with. And we did talk about how a red arrow is more than likely, just because when you're at such a rank like that, there's so many more managers below you than there is ahead of you, and the ranks are so close together that a red arrow just seems more likely. But we did manage to get a green arrow all the way up to about 11.5k overall rank, and we'll say what we've been saying all season so far, that it is super early days and I am not going to get ahead of myself, because FPL works in the sense that you don't get green arrows all the time, and you will get red arrows eventually, and when they do come along, sometimes they can be pretty bad. So I am bracing myself for a potential red arrow this game week, but hopefully we can keep the rank maintained or even improve it. And that also works for if it's not gone as well as you hope for at the start of the season. There's 34 game weeks I think still to go, so that's so long and the ranks are still so close together. We've always say wait until game week 10, then they'll start spreading out a bit, then we can maybe set some realistic goals and targets for the season. In terms of point scoring from game week 4, it was really good in the sense we made two transfers, our first transfers of the season. We took out Son and we took out Chris Wood. Even though both had done okay for us at the start of the season, the plan was to remove them around this time anyway. And Watkins especially really turned it up in terms of point scoring for us at the right time. And we did say these 3 game weeks that he's in right now was his sort of opportunity to get in someone like Watkins. I was kind of amazed a lot of people were taking him out, and the baseline for Watkins would probably have been 6 points in those 3 games, and I wouldn't have expected much more from Chris Wood in that time span as well. But the upside for Watkins was so much greater, and it's shown with 13 points. Now Eze, yeah, he didn't take the penalty, but he's a midfielder at 6.9 million, so I'm not expecting him to return every game week. He was really brought in as a good option alongside, to be able to afford Watkins. So I'm not going to knee-jerk him out or anything. I'm going to keep him because I think he's a big part of Palace. And I do think Palace will start getting a bit more settled now, and we could see a bit more consistent returns from someone like Eze. Elsewhere in the team, we went for it with the Arsenal-Spurs game, and we stuck with the Arsenal players. A lot of people were taking Saka out for Salah. We stuck with Saka because we wanted him in the mid to long term. I didn't want to use up transfers on him, and he did manage to get an assist. And Raya kept his clean sheet, got a save point and some bonus as well. And it's great, it does show that even though there's difficult games for teams, your players still can do well, and sometimes your players play easier teams and it doesn't go as to plan, such is just football in general. Leif Davis, we brought him into the starting lineup and he got a clean sheet away at Brighton, which was brilliant. And Haaland did Haaland things and got a couple more goals, and we captained him, which made sense to me at the time, and in hindsight it still makes sense. So that's the team. In terms of players I'm not too sure about, and we're going to talk about transfers later in the video, Gvardiol is really pushing his luck for me, just in terms of the fact that he didn't start. Really put question marks in. And I know Champions League is starting and we need to just talk about Gvardiol a bit more in depth later on. Also, Andreas and Anthony Gordon are maybe on the chopping block as well. Other than that, I'm pretty happy with my team. I don't see the need to take out Isak. It's a bit like Watkins a couple of weeks ago. I do think Newcastle will come good without European football. When everyone else, really gets stuck into the Champions League, I think Newcastle not having a midweek fixture will really benefit them. So that's the team from Game Week 4. Let's take a look at the fixtures. So the fixtures for this game week, as usual, are looking pretty good. And the standout fixture is that Man City-Arsenal game. In terms of captaincy, I really don't have a problem with you captaining Haaland at all. I think he's always going to be a good option. And we talked a bit about how, say, for Watkins, good fixtures creates good form. Well, then good form makes bad fixtures better. And that's what we've got for Haaland with Arsenal. He's in great form. So is there such a thing as a bad fixture for someone like Haaland right about now? Like, I'm not too sure. Obviously, it's Arsenal, and it's probably as tough as it's going to get for Man City, and these games usually are cagey. But even if you captain him and he blanks, like, that's okay. It's not ideal, but you're not going to nail your captaincy every game week. And I think, you could go for somebody completely out there, maybe, Watkins away, at home to Wolves, or Isak away at Fulham, and they could still blank as well. I think your best bet outside of Haaland is obviously someone like Salah at home to Bournemouth, but maybe Liverpool rotate as well. And I think don't with captaincy. I just wouldn't think too hard about it. I think you've got Haaland and Salah. Probably go for the one that either if you only own one of them, go for that one. I could completely understand why you would go for Salah over Haaland this week, and maybe I'd advise that you should do that. I personally would be going with Haaland, mainly because I don't own Salah, but personally, I do think if I had Salah and Haaland, I probably would still go with Haaland, but that's maybe me, and you need to make your own decisions with your own team on how you're feeling as well. So my team for Game Week 5 looks okay. It's nothing that I'm going to shout from the rooftops about, but mainly because I've got Man City playing Arsenal, and I've got 4 out of my 11 players playing each other. And whilst that's not ideal, it's not a shock to me. It's not like I've just looked at Game Week 5 and thought, oh my days, Arsenal playing Man City and I'm stuck. This fixture was at the start of the season, and I knew it was coming along. And I think that's just how it goes sometimes, because when you own players, especially from good teams, those teams do play each other, and it might work out. Just because they're playing each other doesn't mean it won't work. Let's say they could draw 2-2, and I could get some Saka and Haaland contributions, and that'd be great. They could draw 0-0, and I get a couple of clean sheets. It could also work out that it's 1-1 and nobody scores anything for me. So I think you've just got to take the rough with the smooth in FPL, and hopefully this is a sort of game week where my other players can step up. Isak, Watkins, even Mikalenko, Leif Davies, their fixtures are quite good. And whilst I wouldn't want to put all my eggs in an Everton clean sheet, I think it is still possible. They will keep clean sheets at some point, and hopefully those players can take the pressure off players like Saka and Haaland, who have really been doing it for my team this season so far. I think it is possible, but as we said at the start of the video, I wouldn't be surprised with a red arrow at all. I think at the end of the day, the ranks are still so close. If I could get above average points for the game week, I'll take that right now, and then I'll see where that leaves me in the rankings coming game week 6. So in terms of transfers, I've got a few options that I'm going to talk about now for my own team. Now, I've got 2 free transfers and a whopping 0.2 million in the bank, and that's not going to, transform my team, but it does mean I can maybe wait a little bit for some price rises and price drops. Not that I want to use that money on there, because you want to maintain as much team value as possible, but it's there in case I need it. So option 1 would be Gordon to Mbeumo and Andreas to Dwight McNeil. Now, I know what you're saying, Everton midfielder, but he has just got 3 returns in his last 2 games, and their fixtures do look pretty good in the next 4, especially compared to Andreas and Fulham's fixtures, because Newcastle at home, and then the only green fixture is Nottingham Forest away. Well, Forest have just beaten Liverpool and look really good defensively. So for me, that's where the fixture sort of rankings falls down a bit, because that's not a green fixture for me. So you've got Newcastle, Forest, Man City and Villa in the next 4. And, at the start of the season, I got Andreas Pereira in my team because I thought he would be more consistent for minutes ahead of someone like Smith Rowe, and that has proved to be the case. I think he's got like over 85 minutes in every game so far this season. I would have expected him to maybe get an assist by now, maybe from a set piece or just from attacking play, and it's not happened. And the fact that it's not happened makes me think that it's probably not going to happen in the next 4 either, looking at those fixtures. So if the points I'm expecting from Andreas over the next 4 game weeks is 1 or 2 points a game, well, I've got nothing to lose then by taking a risk on someone like McNeil, because if he gets 1 or 2 points each of the next 4 games, well, I would have had that anyway, but he does have the more upside. It's a bit like Watkins, he had the upside. So even if he has the baseline scores, I wouldn't have expected any more from the player I had originally. Now, Anthony Gordon, I do like Newcastle, and he's not someone that I'm necessarily desperate to get out, but those next 4 fixtures don't look good to me. He's got Fulham and Everton, but they're both away, and he's a bit notorious for being better at home. And then his home fixtures are Man City and Brighton, which is tougher. I think if it was the other way around, they had Fulham and Everton at home, I wouldn't be considering moving him out, because I'd say, right, okay, we can isolate those 2 home fixtures and go for it. But the fact that they're both away does make me hesitate as to how valuable he will be moving forward. Now, we'll talk about Mbeumo, and we all know Viss is injured at the moment, and I think that is something to take into account, because usually people think, that means Mbeumo's going to get more goals, but actually it means opposition defences don't have to concentrate on Visser anymore, and they can concentrate on Mbeumo, and he actually has less, space to move into, and he maybe gets fewer chances. So I am potentially wanting to wait and see how Brentford line up this weekend against Tottenham, but they do tend to change their formation quite a bit, so it's not a given that what they do this weekend will be the same moving forward. Those West Ham and Wolves fixtures at home do look good, and Brentford do still have good fixtures, so I am tempted to get a Brentford player in. But one of those players could be Schade, because now Viss is injured, there is talk that Schade is going to be the striker for Brentford, and even if you're not as good as someone like Visser or Ivan Toney, or maybe it affects Brentford's play, I don't think Brentford aren't going to score for the rest of the season. They are still going to score goals, and their fixtures haven't changed. They're still great fixtures. And a bit like what we're saying with Dwight McNeil is that I could just take the risk on Schade and swap Andreas to Schade for the same price. And, even if he doesn't play or he doesn't return, I've not actually lost that many points. Let's say that I'd get 8 points from Pereira, like we said. Well, I only need Schade to score a goal in any of those games, and I've pretty much beaten that already. In terms of the Gvardiol transfer to Gabriel, the only reason I would make that this game week is because of price changes, because there is a chance Gvardiol goes down in price, there is a chance Gabriel goes up in price, and if that happens, I could still swap to Saliba. I don't mind Saliba at all, but we all know Gvardiol has more attacking threat from set pieces, and this would really be to sort of get in Arsenal's fixtures over the next 3 weeks after this game week. Now, Man City themselves do have really good fixtures, and I think if you own Gvardiol, I wouldn't be saying he needs to be transferred out absolutely right now, because I think he will play more often than not, but the fact that his minutes have been rotated a bit does make him seem, a bit less minute proof than we did already think. So, to be honest, I've put these transfers into 2 different situations, but they can all be pick and mixed in. I could do none of them, because now we can save 5 free transfers. That's really good. I really appreciate that rule change, because right now I'd be forced into a transfer, whereas I've got that flexibility. I could just do one of them, and I could say I could do Gordon to Mbeumo and Gvardiol to Gabriel, or I could swap Gordon and Andreas and get 2 Brentford players in, which I'm not going to do, but the options are there if I want it. So let me know what you think in the comments. Is there any players that I've missed? Is there any players that you think I should transfer out from my team that I've maybe a bit too hesitant on? If you've got any transfer questions as well, please do write them in the comments, or any general FPL chat. It's always great to hear different points of view, and we'll always get back to you in the comments. Check out the latest wildcard team video as well. Link should be on the screen right about now. And if you've made it this far in the video, you might as well subscribe as well. If you've listened to all of this, please do subscribe and keep in contact for more videos in the future. So good luck in this game week. We're going to have a transfers general video of the most players transferred in and out of teams in a couple of days, so stay tuned for that, and I will see you in the next one.